episode of Something Rather Than Nothing was recorded on the occupied lands of the Siletz tribe on the coast of Oregon in the United States of America.
You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Kym Gouchie. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
This is Ken Vellante with the Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. And for this episode, we have Kym Gouchie, who I encountered her work through her cover design for a recent guest we had, Jessica McDermott, the book Highway of Tears, and then came in contact with Kym's just beautiful music in concert in a recent one that was just released. Kym Gouchie, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and welcome to Something Rather Than Nothing.
Well, hello there. It's a pleasure to be here.
Kym, the first question we ask is, what were you like as a young child? Did you, and as it applies to your art, I mean, were you always singing? Were you always interested in art? And in general, what were you like when you were younger?
I was always an artist. I knew that from a very young age, and I can remember being in elementary school and kids trading me their goodies from their lunch if I would draw them a picture. So I did know that, and I excelled in art school, and as far as singing goes, I was not that great of a singer. I just loved to sing, and I come from a very musical family, and lucky for me, my dad never kicked me off the stage. He just would let me sing out of tune and stay. And I just pursued it. I was always surrounded by music as a child. So into my teenage years, when the ego took over, I quit singing. Then it wasn't until I was in my sort of mid-20s that I picked it up again. And but I was more known as an artist and a painter. And then suddenly music took over, and this is who I am now. I'm more recognized as a musician than I am a visual artist, but I definitely, actually, to be honest, as I'm speaking to you, I am sketching because it helps me to focus.
Yeah. And that's something I actually discovered just recently, where I started painting for the first time ever about 2.5 years ago, and related to that, sketching and doing things while I'm doing other activities. I was like, oh wow, I think I used to do this a long time ago, and now I'm thinking that way again. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, big question right up front here is just to establish, we're talking about, different art that you do. I was wondering your opinions on what art is. What is art for you?
Good question. For me, art it's an interpretation of an individual's soul, an interpretation of the unseen or the unknown, and it comes out in ways that are so unique and so specific to a person. And I really feel that it's really been, for me, it has saved me from going down possibly a bad path, because I've always had art to be able to carry me through, whether it was a painting or a song. It's helped me to express myself and to heal, truly. And so I see art as a gift, as an avenue to share and to process different emotions and feelings that many of us would keep inside and have, be trapped inside of us. I think art is a perfect avenue, a vehicle to express and share. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. Some people, you know, are realists, and some people are more on the creative side of surrealists. It's it's a real beautiful thing.
Well, yeah, and I think particularly as I've been working on the podcast over the past year, and I remember a lot in some of the earlier episodes, it really became prominent to me that I ended up talking, a bit more than I expected about psychology, right? Like in the sense of, the therapy and what art provides those who are doing it. So I've become fascinated by those questions, and also personally for myself, connecting my art to my own healing. When did you make that realization, Kym? When were you doing art and dealing with trauma and the difficulties of life, and said, "Oh my gosh, this is what art is doing for me. It's helping me heal from this." When did that happen for you?
What comes to mind immediately was not even that many years ago. It was maybe 7 years ago, when I lost my niece, who was like a daughter to me, and songs started to flow out of me, and then I recorded an album, and then I started to pursue music as a full-time job, really. I realized that art, music, was the perfect way to grieve. It was the perfect way to share my stories and connect with other people, because grief affects every human on this planet. And so it was really a powerful time, because I realized that if I didn't have music at that time in my life, I don't know if I would have been able to heal as quickly as I have through the grieving process. So it was super evident to me at that time, 7 years ago, that art has truly, truly been my saving grace.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments on that. Like I said, or intimated, the kind of direct connection with that process myself, and the revelations that you find. So thank you for sharing that, Kym. Now, I had mentioned at the outset, you had done the cover design, beautiful design for the book Highway of Tears. Recent guest we had, Jessica McDermott. And also that some of the songs and the music, I would say maybe just related to that, had to do with the content of that book, which is the Highway of Tears in British Columbia, and the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Can you, just as far as your personal relationship and connected to your art around the Highway of Tears, can you give the listeners some background of maybe how you came in contact with the issue and your work and advocacy around the Highway of Tears?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I am an Indigenous woman, and I live in the Lheidli T'enneh, which is also known as Prince George, which is either the beginning or the end of the Highway of Tears, which is about a 730 or so kilometer stretch of highway that runs between Prince George and Prince Rupert, British Columbia. And I remember as a child growing up out here on the reservation, near the reservation. I actually was not a part of the reservation as a child. That's a whole other story. And I would leave the house in the morning, and I would be off like exploring and playing, and I would be in the forests and by the waters along the railroad tracks for hours and come home when it was time to eat and then head out again and come home when it was dark. And without a worry, it was never a part of my conscience to worry about any fear of anything until I was a young adult and I started hearing the stories of all of these Indigenous women who have gone missing and who have been found murdered along this highway, which was, there were some cases right here in the Prince George area. And that's when the fear started to settle in. And also, what compacted that was the fact that I have been a victim of domestic violence for most of my married and adult life. And so there was a fear that started to grow in me. And even to this day, I'm out here out at Lheidli T'enneh, which is out in a community called Shelley also, which is where I grew up. And I go for walks every day, and I still have this moment of fear when I see a vehicle coming or a logging truck. And my anxiety hits the roof a little bit. I'm getting better at it. But as an Indigenous woman in this country, I don't take it for granted when I'm out walking. There's this constant state of defense or on the lookout because it just is the way it is. So my music has become, I use it as a platform to create awareness and to share with people, audience members, about some of the things that still affect Indigenous people today in this country, and that's where the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls advocacy work has come in through not only my visual art but also through my music. And I have joined up with different activists advocacy here in the Prince George Lheidli area, and it was on that one of these it was called the Cleansing the Highway walk, which took place in 2016 from Prince Rupert to Prince George, and I joined in on the last 100 kilometers, and that's when I met Jessica McDiarmid, and our friendship just grew from there. And that's how I was chosen to be the illustrator for the book cover, The Highway of Tears. And it continues. This work continues. It's rippled out all across this country and beyond. I receive emails on a pretty consistent basis from people, from audience members who've either been at a show that I've performed at, or who have heard my music online, or who have read the book and are making comment on the cover and the story and whatnot. And it's become a really important focus for me as an artist, but also as an Indigenous woman, that I feel so blessed to be an artist so that I am able to have audiences and have this platform to be able to help create change. And I'm just blown away by the attention that the book cover has received, to be honest, because it was one of the most difficult projects that I've worked on, because I just knew the importance of it, and I knew that I needed to do it, and I needed to do it in the best respectful, meaningful, and sacred way, really. And from what I understand, I have achieved that. And Jessica and I are friends, as I mentioned, so I get to hear from her on a consistent basis on how well the book is doing, and how it's reaching the people, and that's really what this is all about.
Yeah, and then certainly it's been certainly from just what I've seen in coming in contact with the issue and with the art and the advocacy around it. I just want to express to you, yeah, you did achieve that. And I think one of the things that I found in, talking with Jessica, reading the book, encountering the music, and talking to you is that, there's some deep sadness and anger that can reside that something like this is going on and is an active, danger. But with that, particularly with your songs, there's an aspect of hope and of soaring that I feel and of soothing that comes through that, which I think for me feels very powerful. And when you were talking about art, that was the piece that I connected to in watching that concert. Beautiful music, beautiful singing, and but the words, right? The words as well, and the story you were expressing. Yeah. So and of course the book cover is beautiful. Could you tell me a little bit about, I mentioned a couple times offhand a recent concert that's been released that I believe was recorded a couple years ago, and there's a video of it. Could you give some of the details of? I believe it might have quote unquote debuted maybe a week or two ago. Can you talk a little bit about that concert and its meaning for you?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for acknowledging that. Actually, that was a really powerful time. It was in March 2018 when I was invited to take part in this. It was a concert that took place in Prince George at the Prince George Playhouse, and it was the bringing together of Indigenous musicians in the area. And the theme was in the spirit of reconciliation. So bringing people together under one roof who were all like-minded and who wanted change and who wanted to do something differently in this community. And Prince George itself is built on the fact that my ancestors and my Indigenous community was displaced because of a railway that was put through our community, and then the city of Prince George grew from there. So there's been a lot of work and a lot of reconciliation work done in this community. So for me to have a concert at the Prince George Playhouse was probably one of the most powerful things I have done in my career as a musician, because I knew the impact it was going to have. And I was joined by my band at the time, Northern Sky. So it's a 6-piece band up on the stage, and all singing and backing up my music, all with what you had mentioned earlier. There's a feeling of hope. There's a feeling of togetherness, and that's something that I really, really strive for, is through my music and through the art and through my advocacy, is that we're all in this together, and the support that we can receive from one another, regardless of our color, regardless of our any background, I think that's the most powerful thing for me. And I'm so pleased to have this video out there. It's on my YouTube channel, which is it's like Kym Gouchie Music, which I'm really trying to get some people to subscribe to. I do have another YouTube channel which is just under my name, but I'm working on building a community on my YouTube music channel. So the video is called For the People, and it's a live concert documentary. So there's cutaways of myself speaking about the story behind the songs, and I was super proud of this production. It was all locally done, and I just hope that it really gets a really nice wide audience, so people can experience the stories and the music and some of the advocacy work that is woven throughout it as well.
Yeah, it's noticeable, and I do and thanks for mentioning that with your YouTube, because I would love people to see it. The level of talent that you had on that stage, working with you, and the dedication to what was going on was all apparent. I know it's video and it's not live, but it's all right there, and the cutaways to kind of give more of the story. I really thought it was such a moving and excellent and beautiful concert. I know when I watched it, I was like, oh, of course this is pre-pandemic times, but I see myself being like, gosh, to be in that room. It was a special thing, and I'm glad. I hope listeners definitely check that video out for the people. I work for a labor union, so the title already won me over before you got into singing, right? So I was like, for the people, okay, I'm down with what's going here. And connecting to that, and I mentioned the pandemic. Of course, that was recorded before, the situation that folks find themselves in with the pandemic. What is the role of art, in a pandemic? Does it have a different role? Does it have to respond to different things, or does it just keep being whatever it's supposed to be? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's still being whatever it's supposed to be, but it's just has more light on it right now, because I think people maybe were taking it a little bit for granted, and now they realize the importance of it. And because it truly is what we go to movies, we go to concerts, we turn on the music, we look at a painting, you know what I mean? Like
yes,
it's soothing. And I do mention that in the concert. It's something that we all, I don't know anybody that doesn't like I don't even want to know anybody, the person, if they don't like art. it just is for me. It just is. It's how I exist, and I can't even imagine a world without it. And I think that, like, as a musician right now, during this pandemic time, and like many thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of others who have lost their income and who have lost livelihood due to cancellation of shows and whatnot, and now we're taking to this virtual platform, which I have a show coming up on Wednesday, by the way.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's brand new. Some people have been doing this all along. Like, they've been doing the live streaming shows and whatnot, which is not something that I've ever been a fan of. And but I'm having to learn. There's this curve that goes with it, because you need to now, not only be the singer and the songwriter, but now you have to be the technician and the audio engineer and the everything, and you have to have a good camera. And you have to make sure it's all hooked up, and you got to get an interface, and you got to do all of these things. And
yeah,
that's been a pretty huge curve for me. And to me, that's not art. That's a whole other thing. And so I really respect and admire the people who've got that figured out right now, because it definitely, it takes some time and dedication. But as far as what art means during this time, during COVID, I think it means everything. I think it's right up there with the medicine.
Yeah, I imagine that part of the struggle for you, and I heard is some of the technical pieces you were talking about of how to put together the show, has to do with the question of intimacy, right? Like,
exactly.
Like with the audience, and it's things we talked about with the video, and I think that's definitely, must be a mental hurdle for you to get through. But I'm excited to see and hear your efforts in that regard. And just out of curiosity, so we don't lose it, with the show that's coming up, you mentioned on Wednesday, is that something that will find its way to your YouTube channel as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. There will be a link. During this pandemic, I've actually been working on, it's given me time to work on a lot of things that I normally wouldn't be able to because I'd be on the road touring and whatnot. So I'm self-managed. I do have an agent, but I manage all of my own business. And so during this pause, I was able to work on getting my website revamped. So I have a brand new website. If you want to go head over and check it out, it's kymgouchie.com. And that is linked to my YouTube channel right off the landing page on the homepage. And so I'm just still working on trying to figure that all out too, because I'm just constantly applying for grants to try and help fund these different ways of promoting my music and getting my name out there and my music out there.
Well, yeah. I appreciate it. I mean, it seems like fortuitous time in connect with you, because there's always a nice feel of connecting where, you know, you're making the adjustments and doing a thing, but also, you know, you're taking some leaps in trying to get your art out there. And I think it's more important with your art, not to make these distinctions amongst others, but with your art that has that piece that I've connected to of healing, of making a connection amongst humans, and of course song's ability to do that. So I think the timing is it just feels right. I have three. I'm asking you some big questions. I still have like three big questions for you.
Okay.
And I wonder, you know, one of the things I was talking about is the role of art in a pandemic. And since I've started the podcast, I kind of have been asking questions. What is the role of art in different contexts? Particularly in the United States, and the legacy in many areas of the world of racism and the protests that we've seen here in the United States. Art again has there's been a flourishing of art, and whether it's protest art, it brings up the question again of what art's role is in addressing historical injustices and racism. And I just wonder if you had a comment as far as what you see art's role in that work.
Wow, that's a big one. I think imagery is, especially on the internet, is one of the most powerful ways to convey a message. It could be a simple photograph, or it could be a powerful song. And anything, I believe, that has the ability to shake somebody from their belief system, or from, you know, to be able to shift their thinking, whether it's converting somebody from being a racist to a non-racist, or from just educating people. I think art is the way to do that, because it's to sing a song. There's freedom in that. People can't tell you, oh, you can't write about that, or, oh, you can't paint about that. It just is. It's a freedom of expression as an artist is a really, really powerful tool, and it can be used as a positive or negative. I've seen it used as both. There's some really clever ways to get messages out there, and through imagery, through the placement of words. And I just feel that during this time, that art has probably taken a front seat, because of the power that it has through social media and through the sharing on different social media sites and whatnot, and even through just spoken word. Wow, spoken word, powerful stuff for all people, especially young people, because they have so much to say, and they may not necessarily know how to to say it, but you give them a microphone and a beat, and it's powerful.
Yeah, it is, and I think you definitely capture, I mean, the power of art, and I think part of for me, the historical legacy is I tend to view it very positively of what art can do, kind of in the way that you framed it. But I think, part of the thing is in tackling it has to do with the power of art. And when it is powerful, there's a long history of the reinforcement of negative or harmful images, right? So, and then, now if there's a period or historical period of using art in order to transform, that's, that power can be used in that way. And I've seen a lot of those, as difficult as the situation has become in wrestling with the very complicated, very violent, very difficult history of racism. But just within that there's, the kind of notions of liberation, or potential for liberation within that. And I hope that that's where, we can pull the energy from, or more people do, personally.
I agree.
Kym, who or what has made you who you are now?
I would say all that I am is due to all of the hardships that I've suffered, because I really believe that's what shapes a person, is the struggle. Because if life was a breeze, I think it would be a bit of a shallow person, to be honest. I think it's who we are. It's the struggle. It's how we've survived. It's how our ancestors have survived, and how we carry those stories forward, and how we become a part of legacies and a part of the history of our families and of our mothers and our grandmothers. And that's, I believe, yeah.
Is it possible, Kym? One of the things I wanted to ask, as far as the podcast listeners, people listen from different areas of the world, and a large majority are from the United States in the Pacific Northwest. Can you just for the sense of placing like the locale for you, can you just describe the land that you've gone back to, and just kind of where it is, and what those lands are like? Just kind of situate it physically for us.
Yeah, where I'm at right now is in my ancestral territory. I do have ancestral blood here in the Lheidli T'enneh, which is also known as Prince George. It's Lheidli T'enneh means, literally translated, means the people from the confluence of two rivers, and that's where the Nechako River and the Fraser River meet. And that is in the northern interior, kind of central interior of British Columbia, Canada. And the land itself is forest a lot. It's like mostly forest and rivers that run throughout, or alongside of, I should say. And right now we are in our summer month, which is a pretty short window, but the berries are starting to develop, and the moose and the deer are starting to they're raising their young right now, and the mosquitoes are insane where I live. I just had to add that in there.
You have to. You can't avoid
it. I had to give them a little shout out.
You have to.
And yeah, I have to. But something that's really powerful that I think is worth mentioning is that in our territory, we have a very, very large territory here, like in the millions of hectares. And on our territory is a place called the Ancient Forest. Chanto Wadajut is the indigenous name. And it is the only inland rainforest on the planet. And
Whoa.
it's to do, yeah. And I don't think it gets enough attention. And it's a destination point for a lot of people. They've built boardwalks through it. It's like these thousands of years old, hundreds and thousands of year old stands of cedars and other like boreal forest, and it is so beautiful. And it's only an hour's drive from Prince George. I encourage people to check it out.
That sounds amazing. I recently finished a book called The Hidden Life of Trees, and it was written by a German writer. And, it really moved me, and it connected to me to the world of trees, the communication, the vibrancy of that, which honestly I've always appreciated, but didn't really have the tools or the language to understand what was going on. And so having just come off that book of The Hidden Life of Trees and your description of that inland rainforest, gosh, I'm paying attention talking to you right now, but of course, but
right
that sounds
I think I must have been,
wonderful.
I must have been in tune with your vibe.
Yeah.
We actually even call it a snow forest, because truly that's what it is.
Wow. And so it's called the snow forest. Was there any other names for it? I'm sorry, I might have missed that.
Well, it's the ancient forest.
The ancient forest there.
Yeah. And so it's been studied by many, many biologists and sciencey kind of people. And there's a university here of Northern British Columbia where they also have some studies through the university. And it's a really powerful, beautiful place. We did a dedication there last summer of the picnic shelter to my late grandmother, Mary Gouchie, who was one of our last remaining fluent speakers and traditional knowledge keepers here. So yeah, I'm gonna be making a trip out there this summer for sure. I mean, it's only an hour away, right?
Yeah, in a marvelous world. I wonder.
An hour away from me, I'm sure it's.
I looked at the map. It is, it's something to plan. It's something to plan out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So Kym Gouchie, the big question: why is there something rather than nothing?
Why is there something rather than nothing? I think because there's life.
Yeah.
And there's light. And there's light. And as long as there's light, we exist. And we have to continue to do that in the most respectful and sacred way to honor the life that we've been given.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Kym, I want to let you know that it has been a deep pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you about your music, about your story, about the land and the people that are part of you. I very much look forward to your upcoming show. You said that'll be the Wednesday, and do you have the date on that? That must be what's the date?
July 8th.
July 8th, and so on July 8th, Kym Gouchie, and make sure to look for it on YouTube. I wanted to thank you so much for your time. I've been so excited to be able to talk to you, and I hope too. I mean, I feel I don't want to hog your time, but I feel like there's a lot I can learn from you, and listeners can learn from you. And we're going to digest what we talked about, but certainly would love to have another conversation about you, your music, and your art. I wanted to thank you deeply, Kym, for taking the time today on the podcast.
You're very welcome. And I would like to say Snachelia, which is our way of it's not quite a thank you. It's more of you've been good to me, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kym. Could you pronounce that again for me so I can try it?
Snachelia.
So Snachelia?
Yeah, Snachelia.
Snachelia.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look forward to more of your art, Kym. Thank you so much for sharing, and hope to chat with you again soon. Kym Gouchie.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.